SpaceMobile podcast.
We just basically turn your phone and be seamless, regardless of where you are. We don't want the user even to know that it's connected by satellite. Listen, the opportunity that we have is very, very, very large.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I figured I'd do one more space before this weekend. What a tremendous time to celebrate. I know that some people obviously are not feeling too hot with the stock price performance, but just take comfort that this is temporary. In my many years of working in banking and on the hedge fund side, whenever you have a big seller come to market, and whether it's a marketed offering or an overnight block, or they sell like they are right now, it's going to take some time for it to get digested, right, and cleaned up. And so we'll see probably after the close of the day a new Form 4 showing how much Rakuten sold. But it's a defined period of time but defined number of shares that they're going to sell, which is up to half of their holdings, which will conveniently get them to around 5%. As I mentioned before, Mickey Mikitani stepped off the board in January, so he's not holding any material non-public information. That, putting that aside, it is a 10b5-1 plan, so even if he did have information, this is just an automatic selling program on behalf that Bank of America is executing, although they're doing a pretty shit job. But they're doing a shit job, and I'm able to buy shares for reasonable levels. Capital markets desks from hedge funds, they typically will participate in offerings. If they see something like this, they might go short the stock, and then they'll cover, and then they'll go long and trade the technicals, which once these guys get close to done to selling, if they've got half of their shares to sell, which is, call it 14-15 million, once they're done, when you start getting towards the end of that, which is maybe the last 2 or 3, and people can see light at the end of the tunnel and it's going to get cleaned up, then you're going to see the stock start ramping up. And then that's what I referred to earlier, which is the spring is getting coiled. But launch is here. I'm going to replay some of the favorite videos over the weekend to get people pumped up. But we've got launch scheduled for Sunday morning. And so a number of us will be flying down to Cape, and some of us are staying at Hyatt and others at the Marriott. And so I think people are going to be meeting up at the bar. Don't drink too much. Don't stay up too late, because we're going to have to hop onto a bus early Sunday morning in order to make it out to the Cape and see launch, which is scheduled for early morning. Now, there is a chance. I think the weather reports say that there's a 90% chance of good weather, that it's going to be supportive of a launch. But then, of course, this is Blue Origin. Some things may not go right, or they just don't feel comfortable, and they might scrub it, and then they might try it for Monday, which Monday, I believe the weather is supposed to be like 50% favorable. So the odds are good for Sunday. And but if they do push us back, then it's just kind of normal course of business, which would be a bummer, because I'm going to be there Saturday evening, and then going Sunday morning, and then I'm flying back to New York early afternoon on Sunday. So I'm hoping that this is going to happen. But I just wanted to fire up a space, and just it's quite comical, like just seeing people posting on Twitter. And I know it's like just a cross section of folks. Most people are pretty calm, especially those who've held stock for many years or whatever period. But I haven't even looked at Reddit. I heard Reddit's like pretty bad. And so I think we've achieved the kook bottom. Although Kook has been quiet, I think he's trying to tidy up everything before he hops on a flight out to Florida. But we did get a spotting today. Tut Capital finally pressed the button. The last time he did this was February 6th, but he finally tweeted today, "Nothing changes sentiment like price," which is absolutely true. It's funny, because like the stock was at 110 or 120, which I'd argue, if the Amazon news hadn't come out, if Mickey decided not to sell at this point in time, or not decide to sell, that's actually in Bank of America's hands. They're selling on his behalf, and for Rakuten. Then I think the stock would probably be like at 110, 120. heading into launch, but here we are. And am I upset about that? No. This is just part of owning shares in this company. Like it's, I know it was, some people are frustrated that the market has rallied and we've been left behind. Well, it's the spring has been coiled, right? And so when Rakuten's done selling, there's a number of positive catalysts that are coming right around the corner in addition to launch this coming Sunday. But today, for example, we saw that AST submitted a letter to the FCC, which seems like housekeeping at this point, that they're planning to coordinate with National Science Foundation, and I think it's the Radio Telescope Association or something, but around interference. But these are kind of the last crossing T's and dotting I's before full commercial approval, which I think is very soon. And as Chairman Carr mentioned this past week, when he discussed the directed device market being a 3-player market, it's clear in his mind that approval is coming. So we've got a lot of catalysts that are coming up. And so for me, today and or last few days, just knowing the Amazon, deals is noise. And then of course, Rakuten selling, which that's transitory. That will ultimately get done. I've been buying, and there are some people making jokes. Someone was like, well, what if you sold 10,000 shares and then you're just buying all back? I guess I just remind people, like, this is a fraction, the daily buys that I'm making right now is a tiny percentage of my position. Someone had asked, like, are you going to disclose your position? I typically don't do that, but as I've mentioned, there is an article that's being worked on by Bloomberg. It's been in the process for several months, actually going back to the fourth quarter. And so this particular journalist has talked to a number of SpaceMob folks. They found the whole story very interesting. And so I have no idea, like, how that article is going to come out or how it's going to portray us. Maybe we'll be indeed the clueless cult that Tim Farrar claims for us to be. But I'm looking forward to it because I know there's going to be elements of humor in there and lore, which is going to be pretty fun. And I think, for Bloomberg to run an article like that, good, bad, whatever, any attention is good, right? And so I was telling some people today that I actually met up with a photographer from Bloomberg and took what I hope are anonymous looking pictures, but they're going to be in this article. And then I'm coordinating with Bloomberg around potential meetups for SpaceMob. And so I told them that if they do end up taking pictures of folks, just to make sure whoever's in them that they're okay with it, which I think there might be a photographer that could show up at the Hyatt Sunday night. So if you're interested in getting your photo taken for an article on Bloomberg, and I think this article may end up in the Bloomberg magazine as well, which means like it's going to be pretty in depth, then show up to the Hyatt Saturday night. And then to the extent people are okay with it, I might, if folks are going to like Waffle House, I'll direct them towards those areas. But yeah, man, it's a exciting time, and I'm looking forward to it. There's nothing quite like a launch. And originally I had like, if it was going to happen earlier this week, I wouldn't be able to go. And then during the week, it's just tough because there's a lot going on with the family in terms of school and shuttling kids around and all that stuff. But so I kind of like brushed it off as like, you know what, I'm not going to be able to go. I'll wait for the next batch launch, which, by the way, I think that next batch, in terms of being ready for shipment, just a reminder that we're in the middle of April and it's going to be happening soon. But yeah, I was kind of downplaying it and coming up with reasons why it would be okay to miss this, right? And then, of course, when I saw that hot fire, I started getting like, I started feeling it in my plums, like just feeling it that that sensation of being part of something very special, right? And then, of course, when I saw the invite go out, I immediately, I was out somewhere. I immediately texted my wife and I was like, "Hey, you know what? Actually, I want to go to this thing." And she immediately was like, "I understand." And I looked at our schedule, and because it's Sunday morning, it happens to be at a reasonable time and day where, I have some obligations, but I can, I got a friend take our son to this one event, and then my wife is going to take our daughter to this other thing, and so I'm covered. And so, of course, when I saw the invite, I was like, "How can I miss this? I can't miss this." I've gone to every single launch except for, of course, the Israel launch. And by the way, like this Bloomberg photographer who came today to my house, and then also, we were out in the park. Um, she is she's Indian, and she was born and raised there. And obviously, just to get to know each other, we were just talking, um, and I talked to her about the company, and she like, she was interested and took photos. And but then when she saw my model of the LVM3, she's like, "Oh, that's an Israel rocket." And then she saw the PSLV that I have too. And then it clicked for her. She's like, "Oh my gosh, this is AST SpaceMobile." Like everybody in India, it was like such a high profile event. Everybody knows about this company and the launch. And that just that made me feel yeah, I was like tickled by that, right? Because it's one thing to like see news and folks talking about how it was a seminal like watershed event for India, like a source of national pride, that they were putting up an important U.S. commercial satellite. And putting that aside, it's actually a U.S. commercial satellite that's being used by SDA and Department of Defense. Like it's beyond just like for commercial use, right? That's FM1 or Bluebird 6. Which, by the way, like I think some people may have forgotten that we did launch Bluebird 6 in December, because I saw as some of these people are crashing out on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, the company hasn't launched anything." It's like, wait, like we did launch a satellite at the end of last year, and it was deployed successfully. But yeah, that was a pretty cool moment where this lady told me, she's like, "Oh yeah, I know LVM3, and my family, everybody was paying attention to that launch," which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, that launch was great to watch. But now we get to see, you know, this new vehicle, which is Blue Origin New Glenn. I've seen 2 Falcon 9 launches in person for BlueWalker 3 and the 5 Block 1 satellites, and I think this is gonna be next level, right? Blue Origin, it's gonna be amazing to see this launch. And I'm not sure like how far out the booster landing is going to be, and if we're gonna be able to catch it. But if you haven't been to one of these events, you go to this area that's very close to the water. It's as close as you can get to all the launch pads out there, and they have these bleachers, and you just sit out there. And there's a guy who MCs these things. He is out there, and he's a experienced hand, and he talks about the mission and the launch, the satellite, and then he walks you through the entire thing. And so there are monitors there too. And so the last 2 Falcon 9 launches were pretty cool, because after the launches happened, then the booster returns, and we were able to see. Fortunately, both of those launches had the boosters return right nearby, and so we got to like hear the sonic boom, and then of course the booster landing. But this time, of course, it's going to be the boosters for New Glenn 3 is going to be landing somewhere out in the ocean on Jacqueline. And so we'll probably get a video feed of that happening, which is going to be amazing, right? But yeah, this is going to be an exciting time. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Blue Origin folks there as well, so that'll be fun. I believe I heard there's this invite went out in a very short period of time. I think in the previous launch there were a few. I'm guessing, just looking at trying to remember, like there was probably well over 1,000 attendees, whereas I think this time there's several hundred. There could be more, depending on how much of the invites get filled up. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I know, as I said before, people are meeting at the Hyatt to hang out, and I'm coming in late, but I'm gonna hang out as much as I can and try to get some sleep. I don't know if you've ever experienced like not taking a big test, but like if you had some I don't know, crazy performance the next morning, or something exciting happened and you don't really get good sleep, like that's that's usually what happens ahead of these things. I remember I think I took a sleeping pill or cough syrup or something last time to make sure I got some amount of sleep. Um but yeah, it's gonna be pretty special. And I think, the company has done a great job in the past, and I'm not sure how much they are prepping for this one. I don't know if it's going to be as big an event as the Block One launch, but my assumption is that it's going to be pretty good. They've raised $4 billion. I'm not saying that they should spend money on events, but hopefully it'll be like fun and there'll be some memorabilia there that they're handing out. But yeah, I'm totally looking forward to it. And um, I guess the other thing I wanted to talk about is some of the, and this is not the dark side, but it's just kind of, I guess, funny. It's like there's all these panicans who are crashing out on Twitter and Reddit. And so yeah, it is interesting, the human psychology of the stock is obviously it's down. Let's see, what is it? 6% today, which for the old hands in AST SpaceMobile, who, for the people who went through like 10, 15, 20% downswing days, of course, sometimes up 50, 60% too. This is like peanuts, right? And so, and it's not as if like there's some boogeyman that we don't know, like, oh my gosh, someone knows something and they're selling. It's like, oh, it's Rakuten. So over there, Mickey Mikitani stepped off the board. He's got to turn around the company. They're going to be plowing way more capex into the mobile business. Bloomberg highlighted this back in March, and of course, the company has talked about this in 2025. But they're going to need to monetize, up to half of their AST SpaceMobile stake. They're going to, I think, reorganize their fintech business. I haven't dug much into that, but I think they probably have to spin that thing off. But yeah, like they need money. Simple as that. And so the great thing is like how much they're going to sell potentially, and generally speaking, given how much volume we trade every day, like they should get cleaned up pretty soon. And so for me, it's like, wow, that's a great setup. So I know where the pressure of the stock is coming from. It's been primarily Rakuten, and of course, like this Amazon news, which I've gone through in detail. That's not going to impact the stock for 4 or 5 years, maybe. I don't know. Unless Amazon goes out and like does more deals, which it could. But in all these situations, by the way, for people who are like, oh my gosh, like I think Iridium and Viasat, like these deals are going to happen. One thing you don't want to do as an acquirer entering into a market, you don't want to announce multiple deals and go through the regulatory review at the same time. You actually want to do a deal, get it done, make sure it's done and it's not messy or dirty. And then you move on to the next deal. And so for this Globalstar deal, you're probably looking at a closing of that deal sometime in, Q2 of next year. And then maybe Amazon will have the ability to go out and announce another deal. But what you don't do is when you're in antitrust review and FCC regulatory review, you don't complicate things by announcing another deal and just making things either, it's going to take longer, but also, you also risk potential of having one of those deals fail because of maybe there's some anti-competitive issues. But yeah, so we got that, and then of course Rakuten is selling, and there's some pressure. So it is interesting, I guess, from a psychological standpoint, where you've got people who, when stock is in the 90s and they're really bullish, and the company is the best thing since sliced bread, and then the stock, because of this insider who well, they're not an insider anymore because they left the board, but they have to sell stock and clean up their balance sheet, and it's caused pressure on the stock. All of a sudden your good feelings about the company, yeah, like a week or 2 weeks ago, gets evaporated, right? And now you're like calling for the heads of management, and they could have done all these things better. And it's like, dude, just like take a step back and take stock of what you're doing and what you're writing on Twitter or whatever it is, right? Like nothing has changed. Like the launch is happening. Amazon news, like it is what it is. It, for all host of reasons, like it's validated the market, and it's introduced like a potential another player, but it's also expanding the TAM, like all that stuff, right? And then Rakuten selling stock, but has anything fundamentally changed about the company? No. Has the stock been under pressure, and is it frustrating that the market has gone up and the stock has languished? Sure, but when I was an event-driven portfolio manager, this is the type of event you would be like, okay, you know what? Perhaps like somebody shorted on the front end of it, but then this is also a great trade once the selling gets done, right? Because once it's cleaned up, then the stock should rally. And so, yeah, I think people, and by the way, like there's on Twitter, there's also people who are like reaching out to like Kevin Mack and others, and it's like, oh, what do you think of this? And I can tell you, like Kevin Mack's going to say, oh, Rakuten selling, there's technical pressure on the stock, but once they're done, the stock should recover, right? Like nothing's changed there. I guess I'd be curious to hear what he thinks about Amazon, but I don't know if he's in the weeds as much as the rest of us on the competitive side, but I'm sure he'll have something to say, as he always does. But yeah, I think it is funny. Like there's all these people who've come out of the woodwork, and like there's a very small subset of Rocket Lab investors, and by the way, there's a small subset of AST holders too, who are toxic, and for whatever reason, they try to compare the two companies. And so that small subset of toxic people have come out and be like, "Hey, look, Rocket Lab stock price is higher, or it's getting close," and they're trying to make that comparison, which is pretty stupid. But there is one thing that is interesting related to that, which is the companies do trade on top of one another, and so as these anointed leaders of new space, they do trade similarly. And so when one is down, the other one kind of trades down. When one is up, the other trades up. And there is some correlation between the two. Like when Rocket Lab gets pretty close to AST, then usually if you were to actually trade this pair, you would sell Rocket Lab and you go long AST, because then that gap would widen again. And then when it gets too wide, you would sell AST and you would go long Rocket Lab, and then the gap would narrow. How long that relationship will hold, who knows? It's not a pair that I trade, but some people have pointed that out, and I've pointed it out as well. But it is kind of funny, like some of these folks who've come out and said, "Oh, I knew it. AST, like their management, they're not transparent. They're doing this, they're doing that. I trust Rocket Lab more." And then I think someone had pointed out to this one person who was posting that, this person said AST misses deadlines, and then the person asked, "Well, what happened to Neutron?" And then they like came up with all these reasons why their delays are better, which the whole argument is just kind of stupid. I actually had put together like a funny meme for some of these people who, for a period of time, they got distracted by Firefly. Like there's a whole group, and there's some people I respect, like Michael Sekend. He's long Firefly. And there's a few others, and by the way, like that's been a great trade. They called the bottom on that, and Firefly has quickly rebounded, and it's it's part of this like SpaceX IPO trade where all these names have rallied, right? Even the questionable ones. And I'm not saying Firefly is questionable. They've got what appears to be like a great lunar program. In terms of their rocket history, they still got work to do, but maybe they'll eventually get there. But when Firefly started rallying, then you had like some of the small group of Rocket Lab holders come out and just start shitting all over it, right? And I put together this little meme of the two girls in the middle that were fighting, and it's like the toxic Rocket Lab guys and then the Firefly guys, which I guess some of those Firefly guys like baited them to a degree. And then like the guy, of course, in the corner is the boy who's like smoking from a bong, and that's like SpaceMob, where they're enjoying the fact that the toxic Rocket Lab guys have like focused their efforts elsewhere on a company that actually is comparable in terms of what they're doing, versus coming after AST, which has nothing to do with what the business that Rocket Lab's in. But anyway, but yeah, it's just kind of funny to see market psychology play out, where people, I think some folks shouldn't be on Twitter, perhaps, because like I think overall, by the way, like, and Cook and I have talked about this too. I think Twitter, if you're looking at it daily, it is the height of brain rot. And you have to recognize it for what it is, and it's very addictive, right? Like there's outside of the stuff that you want, which is like financial news, investing, maybe it's related to AST or a few other companies that you're following. Outside of it, there's a whole bunch of just absolute garbage, and it's a cesspool, right? Um, and I told someone this the other day. Like I'm pretty much like I guess I would say I was more of a liberal before, and then I'm kind of, but I'm very much like in the center. Being in New York, it's hard not to be somewhat more liberal. And I've always lived in like cities that are more liberal than conservative. But after being on Twitter for how many ever years, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming a racist and more conservative and xenophobic and all this stuff. And I have to catch myself, right? And it's funny because like I'll have conversations in New York with people, and I'll just be there and be like, wow, this person's really liberal or really progressive. Versus perhaps like a few years ago, I might have agreed with some of what they're saying. But Twitter is pretty powerful. It's like mind control, right? And so I think it's important. And this goes for the reason why I'm bringing this up is that it's extreme, right? Like when you had all these doom maxers 2-3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Oh, we're going to war, and it's like World War III, and there's no way that Iran and the U.S. will come to some peaceful resolution, and there's gonna be a market crash. Like I heard there was a market crash that was gonna be this Monday. There was a market crash the last Monday, and the Monday before, and the Monday before. And if you don't have mental strength or can recognize the baiting and the rage posting for what it is, then I guess you can kind of fall into the trap of this stuff, right? And that's where like some of the I joke about these panicans, but these people who are either truly panicking or they're writing stuff for engagement. Like there's this guy Sasso, saying like, "Oh my gosh, Rakuten's panic selling." No, dumbass. They've been outlining their need to monetize, their AST SpaceMobile stake and fix their balance sheet. They've been talking about riding the ship in 2025, and of course Mickey left the board in January, and then of course now they're selling. It's not panic selling, like it's been planned, right? And so I think, yeah, you just got to be careful, like following some of these people, and not letting it get to you. And that's, it goes beyond just like the investing stuff. It's like the political stuff, violence. I mean, there's all kinds of just garbage. And on the one hand, like X is pretty useful. Like you can get news pretty fast, and you can get some opinions that perhaps aren't in mainstream media or analysis, which is good. But then I think we all learned during this Iran conflict, like a lot of it is propaganda, just people making up shit or AI slop. And so you got to be careful, right? But anyway, I'll stop. I'll step off the soapbox, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend. I know a number of you are like packing and are going to be heading out either today or tomorrow. But yeah, it's going to be special. And I think one of the fun things about being an investor in this company is that you have these events where you get to meet people, and the company, when I was talking to this Bloomberg photographer, the company's doing something truly game changing and amazing, right? And you get to be part of that journey, which for me, it's been since 2020, the fourth quarter of 2020. So it's been a long time, and I've got a lot of memories and built a lot of great relationships, friendships over the years. And so, when my wife, when I told her, she was like fully supportive. She's like, I understand, you got to go down there. It's important. And when I do these spaces and she's got to deal with other stuff, she understands. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of, I think what I had, actually, I'm going to look at the comments here. Let's see if there's Good comments. Oh, by the way, like when you're down there, be sure to. I'm going to bring a Dr. Pepper to the launch for in memory of our friend Steve Larison. For those that don't know, he was like one of their OG SpaceMob members, and he's actually buried down there overlooking Cape Canaveral. So he'll be watching with us. And his favorite drink was a Dr. Pepper. I actually loved Dr. Pepper growing up, and so that immediately, when I learned about Steve, that immediately put him in good light with me. Let's see. Someone's asking, does wind affect launches? Monday looks windy, Sunday looks perfect. Yeah, Sunday does look perfect. That's why I think in regards to the weather, they're saying that Sunday is the best time to launch. Monday is like 50-50, Sunday's like 90%. So yeah. Wind does matter as long as it's not a hurricane or something crazy. It would be good if there's no wind. Let's see. I know you want to stay on, but it would be cool for AST to live stream from the event. I think he's talking. Let's see, Ashley. I think you're talking about me. I guess I could do that, but then AST is going to be having a live stream with a lot more cool information, and just like the Israel launch, or Block 1 or a BlueWalker 3 launch. I think they're going to be sharing some cool videos. Probably, my guess is, and this is just me speculating, they're probably going to show some videos of perhaps like the composite satellites being produced or some of that stuff. So I don't know if a streaming would be good, but I mean, maybe I'll do a space here or there. But yeah, let's see. Someone saying, hi, Anpan, based on SpaceX Starlink timeline, it looks like we are still 6 months away from full SES approval. No, I disagree with that. I think we already finished the comment period in October. And so the approval is imminent. In looking at the back and forth between the docket between the company, AT&T, Verizon, FirstNet, and the FCC, I think we're in the final strokes. Let's see. Could it be that Rakuten told AST management about the upcoming sale to postpone any positive catalyst news? Thank you for what you do for SpaceMob. I don't think so. Rakuten doesn't sit on the board anymore. They might have given AST a heads up and said, hey, we need to do this, and so we're just going to let you know. I don't think the company is going to hold back good news based off of what Rakuten is doing trading wise. But they're going to be cognizant of it, right? And so if they know that the selling's happening right now, maybe post-launch there'll be some news. We'll see. But we do know, of course, that the first batch shipment is going to happen in the next week or two. And then there's a number of other things that are in the works. So I don't think this depression of the stock price is going to last long, which is why I'm buying. If I didn't think that, I wouldn't be buying. Let's see. All right. So those are, I guess, some of the comments that I see now. So I'm going to end the space here, and looking forward to seeing everyone. And if you have a friend that's panicking because the stock price is down and the market is up, just ask them to tell you why they're invested. And when they tell you the reasons why they're invested, they'll feel better about themselves. But anyway, I'll end there, and I'll see everyone in the Cape, and looking forward to having a beer. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the AST SpaceMobile podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest news about AST SpaceMobile, make sure to subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.
We're doing something very, very big. And I think with this technology, we can really affect billion lives.
AST SpaceMobile is the only company that has proven technology to deliver cellular broadband connectivity directly from space to your everyday smartphone.
People will just basically turn their phone and be seamless. Regardless of where you are, we don't want the user even to know that it's connected by satellite. Our role is to bring this into reality, always in partnership with the MNOs.
Listen. Waffles.